Housing crisis, that's a hot topic. I got a video for you from Melody Wright. I got a couple clips from a longer video. I really think you're going to want to see the longer video. She's going to talk about demographics and what's coming up here in a couple quarters from now and how this inventory is going to climb. And she's going to talk about the demographics and what we're going to see over the next 10 plus years. So that's really important. The thing that I think people need to think about is, are they prepared for something similar to what we saw last time with the housing crisis? 2007 to 2017, we saw prices go down, and then it took time for it to rebound, right? Yeah, for 5 years we had a good run there after COVID, but there was about a 10-year period where they went down and it took a while to rebound. So you're willing to hold on to your properties for 10 years without really any appreciation? Are you making sure that they cash flow? A lot of other people talk about a 40 to 45 year cycle on bonds. If you Google or look up, have interest rates relatively been low for about 35 years? And it will confirm that that is true, that they've been relatively low for 35 years. Some people feel like we're going to see the other part of the cycle now. It's a different generation now. So we could, based on those low rates, you're seeing the consequence with inflation. So to keep inflation in line, we really keep those interest rates high. So it doesn't mean necessarily the rates are going to stay in the high 6 or 7s for the next 35 years, but a lot of people think we're due for a really long cycle of higher rates now. So again, are your properties cash flowing? And are you willing to hold for 10 years or 30 or 35 years to get the price that you're looking for? Those are things that you need to think about as you love being a landlord and love being a flipper. And I'll go ahead and lead you into the Melody Wright video. And as you're listening to this video about the demographics and what's on the way with the inventory going up, I just want you to think about really motivated sellers and how they'll sell on seller terms and how they'll sell really cheap for cash, discounted, if they actually admit to the deferred maintenance and lower the price enough, if they're able to. Otherwise, it's going to be a short sale, and some of these are going to go into foreclosures. She does get into that as well. But just keep that in mind, because it reminds me a lot of the haves and wants at MNREIA on the first Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, where there's going to be this two-sided marketplace where there's definitely going to be the motivated sellers. They're starting to increase. So these motivated investors really need to prepare themselves to be able to scale and think about cash flow and cash on cash return.
They're going to be, I believe, just because of our supply due to demographics and how, that's just going to accelerate from here, that no matter what they do, homes are going to start tracking with household median income again. It could take a very long time to get there. But I think that is the outcome, especially with our demographics.
You got to talk a little bit about, we've talked about it last time about our demographics. We talk about a population actually shrinking. It doesn't look good, but work that out a little bit for our viewers and listeners.
Yeah. So, I'm not happy about this. It's just the reality, but 15.6 million boomers will leave us between now and 2035, and they own the majority of the homes. Another 26 million, but between the 2035 and 2050. The same time, we're not birthing babies at replacement rate. And so, I think we probably talked about the average household size in the US. When I was growing up, we heard about 3.5, earlier than that, 4.2, now it's 2.5. The whole housing shortage narrative is kind of crazy when you really dig into the details. But yeah, our demographics are terrible. And the only reason we had positive population gain last year was they were foreign born. And so we're not going to have that next year. And we might not have it for the next couple of years. And so you're really looking at a situation where the supply, because the boomers, a lot of them, they don't just own one home, they own two or three. Yep. And so, and their kids can't afford them. They can't afford these property tax. And I'm helping kids right now try to offload properties, as well as ones that got into trouble. Somebody, took a POA, took a loan out on mom's property without the other siblings knowing, things like this. It's terrible, but they can't afford them. And so this is all coming to market. And it just takes time, and people, we have like gnat-like focus now. People just, they can't think.
Wow, that's a lot of information by Melody right there. Did you guys catch that? Did you take notes? You see where this market is heading? Let's check out another clip.
Yeah. So I'm very, it's unfortunate we missed a month of new home sales. Not that they're very reliable statistics, but, and now I realize they're modeled, but the model tells me something about what's going underneath. But I think we're probably about to see accelerating home price declines at the end of this year. If this stock market route continues and we don't see the Santa rally we're all used to, right? I mean, sentiment's going to fall through the floor. And the boomers, these are the people, and I'm not trying to buy into that boomer versus the younger. Well, I think that narrative is about dividing people, but I think you're going to start to see accelerated inventory non-seasonally. It's not going to make sense in a lot of these places because housing has seasons. Because you're seeing that out west right now. It's really wild. But I think you'll see your first uptick in foreclosures at the end. I mean, they're going to steadily go up from here. Don't get me wrong. That's a thing. But you're going to see kind of the critical increase probably by the end of Q1. And then by Q2, that's just going to be even worse. And as we're in that selling season, because this is what people don't understand, you only need one foreclosure in your neighborhood. And guys, it's the person you least expect are the first ones to default. It's the person with the flashy car and the boat and the RV and all of that. And so you think your neighborhood is immune. It is not. I guarantee you, you give me a zip code, I'm going to tell you who's underwater, who has property tax issues, owner liens, all this kind of trouble. It just hides underneath the surface behind these flashy cars. And so one foreclosure in your neighborhood brings down everybody's comparables. And so we are so silly in this country about talking about median home price. Like how can we actually know the price? What's happening right now is we're not selling homes. We had the lowest home sales since 1995 last year, and they're lower right now. I think we're going to catch up at the end of the year a little bit. But come on. Like, how can you actually know what, a home is really worth? It's not what your Zestimate says. And by the way, most people didn't. It was too costly. At first, they couldn't find the labor, but then it was too costly to do the repairs. And so they are thinking that their home is worth way more than it really is. And I think as they see homes start to sell for those lower prices, people are going to start to panic, and this will start to really accelerate through the selling season next year. But by the end of Q2 2026, I mean, we are going to be talking about a housing crisis.
So I have to watch another clip of Melody right there. And again, you'll want to watch the whole video. I think you're starting to see the gravity of the situation where people right now are like, we might have to let go of some of these properties. And not only that, people are going to say, is this worth it? Am I holding on to a property for another 10 years with no appreciation? I better really get a lot more conservative, less leverage, more cash flow, more cash on cash return. And I hear what you're saying about the interest rates. I mean, I don't think the interest rates are going to hit 3% again, right? You're probably thinking to yourself, and they might stay around 6.5%, 7%, 8% for another 30 years. Do I want to hold on that long? Do I have a different plan? Do I have a different strategy? Because there is going to be a gap of time that's going to be almost like the mirror reflection of what we just saw. So you just have to have a different strategy and plan differently on how you operate your properties. So again, this is why we get back to the two-sided marketplace and truly knowing how to identify with how good you need to position your properties to sell at the haves and wants. First Tuesday, MNREIA. A motivated seller might do 3 to 5% down, could do contract for deed, subject to. Really good terms, maybe not even make a payment for a month, maybe you already have it rented out. If it's vacant, you're going to have to get a lot more motivated as a seller, as an investor seller, as a landlord. You might have to sell a lot of properties at once. As far as fix and flip properties, as this gets a little bit tougher for the rehabbers to sell, you're going to need to come down on price. so that they can make money so they can keep buying the properties. You have to be open to the fact, receptive to the fact that because of inflation, the labor and maintenance and everything on these prices of these houses and the high interest rates, you're going to need to realize that the amount it takes to fix up these properties, decades of deferred maintenance, is a lot more than you think. It might not be $30,000, it might be $130,000. And they're not just going to take that net off. I mean, they're going to want a $40,000 profit or whatever that is. So if you're a motivated investor, seller, landlord, selling a property for a flipper, you got to be able to make sure there's room in there. I don't think a lot of people are going to have that room because their lifestyle was basically lived in a way where they just left deferred maintenance. So they're probably going to end up with a short sale. If they don't do the short sale, you end up with foreclosure. You end up, the keys go back to the bank. But that's okay. You'll make it up on the next deal, right? So that's kind of what it looks like to be a motivated seller. Make the seller terms look really good or make the price look really good. An investor buyer, don't just say, hey, I'm maybe kind of looking around. I subscribe to a YouTube channel. You got to look serious. You got to say, I've met with hard money lender. I've met with my bank. I'm pre-approved. I got cash. Ready to put money down. Ready to make a decision. I've been looking at some homes online. I'm ready to write up some paperwork. People will take you serious. They'll want to tell you about their deals. Get into the details of your situation, your properties. Tell the investors, hey, this is what it's worth when it's all fixed up. Here's some comps with some fixed up ones. Here's some estimates or the scope of work. Maybe I don't know how to do the estimates. Here's the scope of all the work that it needs. I got a bunch of photos of it too. Make it easy on you as an investor buyer. This is the best price I could do. I'm going to be reasonable. I know the market's nosediving right now. An investor buyer. Say, hey, maybe I haven't done a lot of these before, but I got cash. I've talked to hard money people. Whatever. Here's proof of funds. Whatever. Make it easier on the seller. But you got to sell yourself a bit on either side, whether you're the investor buyer or the investor seller, because they've got to want to work with you and not just look at you like every other person that's just kind of browsing around on the internet that's not serious. There's a lot of properties on the MLS right now where the sellers aren't serious. They're not being real, and that's why we got the lowest transactions in 30 years. They're being pretenders. These sellers are being wimps. They're not willing to come down on their price, and so it's going to stall. And then now the FHA foreclosure thing's starting, and as Melody talks about, once those foreclosures start, and it'll be the ones you least expect, that's when the comps in the neighborhood start to nosedive. And all those people that were not coming down in price and they were delisting and playing games over a year or two, they're not going to feel panicked or forced to sell because their neighbors are going to be in foreclosure and they're going to have to sell at really cheap discounts. And that's just what's going to happen. So people need to be prepared that these comps are going to start coming down, and the banks are going to adjust accordingly. They're going to cut some appraisals. They're already taking 45% of the refis and not approving them or rejecting them, and as far as car loans, everything else on credit. So you're seeing it. People can't access that equity, so you have to sell assets, boats, ATVs, cars, pickup trucks, sell out of their assets. You're going to see a bit of a deflationary spiral, downward spiral, and people just start selling those assets. And that's when the comps start going down because there's a lot more net sellers, a lot less qualified buyers because of all the defaults and late payments and so forth. And then some of these older rental buildings are also having challenges with vacancies, and because the newer apartment buildings are just giving away a bunch of free rent and stuff for many months, from what I'm hearing. And I'm also hearing some of those new apartment buildings, those really, really big ones that we're like, why did they build them all? They're half empty from what I'm hearing. So it's going to be a race to the bottom on terms, prices, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the people that are prepared. So get prepared, get some perspectives, show up, 7 o'clock Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month, 7 o'clock in MNREIA. Look it up, MNREIA.com. It's in Fridley Banquet. And have fun selling your properties and get your money lined up, ready to buy.